Hello, Anomaly here, and welcome to hopefully a long series of videos about Battle for Azeroth, both the alpha and the beta, as we kind of work through this. So I'm going to probably spend a lot of these videos highlighting some of the different PvE content that's available out there. Once we get some actual Mistweaver monk changes, highlight some of those through some videos. But today we are talking about Battle for Azeroth and the Freehold dungeon, which is one of the two PvE instances available right now on the alpha. I believe this one is the Alliance starter zone dungeon, and then the second one is a troll-based dungeon. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But today we're kind of gonna run through Freehold and really just highlight the different bosses, and I'll kind of talk about some of the trash as we get to it as we kind of roll through here. Um, so this first section is kind of you're just clearing up to the first boss, which is like he has like a mount that he flies around on. You'll notice he throws down some of these like little pools of stuff that you just want to stand in. But for the most part, the trash is pretty straightforward. Again, I believe these are just normal rated dungeons, so there's nothing too difficult about them. So, alright, so as we get in here, you'll notice this is the kind of the first boss. He has kind of two phases, I guess you could say. There's one where he's on this big like bird mount, and the second is after you get into about 50%, the bird flies away and you just fight him. It really doesn't do anything other than just the bird kind of charges and does a little bit of a like a area effect that you saw me move out of there. And then he has one conal ability, so you kind of want to spread out a little bit for it. But other than that, he also channels a like health regeneration, and when you interrupt it, he drops the kind of bottle of grog on the ground. You can pick it up and essentially gain hit points with it. I don't know if it cancels when you move. You have to kind of stand still and use it. I'm assuming as you get to like higher difficulties on either heroic or mythic, that bottle becomes a more important aspect. But for the most part, this is kind of just a tank and spank, really quick fight. Really interesting though, as kind of the first boss fight in this instance. So as you can see here, we're running to the next area. The visuals here are actually pretty okay. Not I like the troll dungeon, which we'll talk about in a different video, much better than this one. But for aesthetically, there is some kind of nice little vista views as you cross one of these big bridges, and then kind of some of the town areas are kind of detailed. Essentially, this is kind of like I guess the pirate capital. So I guess it's supposed to be like Tortuga. I don't know, whatever the pirate capital is called. Um, but you can just clear some trash in the second area. This area is kind of interesting. There's like a dog mechanic where you're letting somebody out of the cage. You end up getting a nice little pirate hat buff. So you kind of just have to like follow the little pooch around. Eventually he gets tired. You get the key, and then you can free the guy in the middle. I'm assuming there's some sort of story around this from the zone. However, since this is the Alliance zone and I'm leveling at least Horde at this one, I didn't really know what's going on most of the time. So you kind of just clear around. Eventually, you will get to the next boss fight, which should be coming up here in a couple minutes or a couple seconds. Sorry. The trash, really nothing super noteworthy about it. Kind of the typical like, hey, it has a move that the boss has that you're about to do. So that's about the extent of it. So with this boss, this is a two-part boss, I guess you could say, or two mob boss. There's like the little guy and then the big guy. They each kind of have a different move. So the little guy here you can see has like an AoE or conal attack that he kind of shoots around, almost like a sprinkler for about a quarter or half the room there. For that, I mean, if you can get behind him, great. If not, you just don't run with it or you will die. And then the big guy does this kind of big AoE smash. Kind of bumps you back if you're stuck in it. He kind of channels and bumps you. But then he also throws a barrel on a specific member of the party, and it kind of disorients you until you gets killed. So it kind of gets dangerous if it's on the healer, but you kind of want to try and follow, at least what we did. We just kind of followed the little guy around as he jumped from area to area, and then kind of DPS down whoever got barreled as quickly as possible. You'll see here I'm getting like kind of bumped back by the AoE. Primarily because I didn't know what it did. But we end up killing the big guy here, I believe. I think I end up getting barreled again, or no? I think it's the barrel kind of piece is a little weird. Because sometimes people get caught in it, sometimes you don't. But see, that barrel wasn't really on anybody, and we ended up killing it for not the right reason. So, but overall, I think, I mean, like I said, these are kind of normal mode bosses, so there's nothing too crazy about them. But he does have some interesting pieces of it. So next boss we're kind of clearing to more trash, just some big smashy guys. You can do a lot of AoE, at least in this normal mode stuff. So as for actual monk healing, I haven't really talked about that, but we're so early in alpha, there actually haven't been any monk changes as of kind of recording this. So a lot of the artifact ability stuff is gone. A lot of your different artifact traits are gone. So really, you're kind of like just think about the current monk is a monk without an artifact weapon. um, and that's kind of your healing style. So you have all your basic abilities, but like none of your traits are you have none of your traits, right? So like dancing mist isn't there when you don't apply rem, or enveloping when you life's cocoon someone. Different things like that. So it's definitely a little bit boring, I would say. Hopefully we get a couple of changes coming in, um, but we'll see. Probably get some tweaks. So on to the next boss. The next boss is kind of the Ring of Blood style. You'll see old Gurthog up there chatting away, and you kind of fight, at least in this one in normal mode, two different boss mobs. You'll fight a turtle and a guy with shark arms, which is actually pretty cool. But I'm assuming that as we get as you get like at higher difficulties, you'll see additional mobs come in here because it's only two. I mean, there's this first part where you have to kind of catch a pig, which I think is pretty funny. But you after you kind of catch a pig, you actually get to fight a mob. But I think as you get at higher difficulties, they'll probably extend, or not extend, but add additional fights to this. So it becomes a little bit more enjoyable. This was kind of the most boring part of the dungeon, just because there's a lot of waiting around, and neither of these mobs, because it's kind of like a gauntlet style, or boss rush style thing. They don't really have any interesting mechanics to them. So like, at least now the turtle just throws these shells, as you can see, go out, and we end up killing them. Um, so it's nothing too exciting. So kind of as we kind of finish up this one, I'll kind of talk about, like, the idea here is to kind of eventually do these videos pretty regularly, just to kind of keep you guys up to date on not only the PV stuff, like I mentioned earlier, but also kind of do just like what are kind of some of the Mistweaver changes coming up. We'll probably focus primarily on Mistweaver, at least for the beginning part, and then we'll kind of talk about or I'll talk about if like it makes sense to kind of expand to maybe some Brewmaster stuff, or maybe some either Brewmaster stuff, or maybe some even Windwalker. We'll see. So this is the second kind of boss rush guy, and as you can see, he's got two big sharks on his arms, and he basically just throws them around, and they kind of chase a specific person. I tried to see if it was proximity based. I think it's slightly proximity based, as in you can potentially get them on certain people and have one person just kind of kite it around. As you can see, this warlock has no idea what's going on, and ended up dying. And then I almost died trying to heal him because he does do kind of a Sharknado or a Tornado-like ability, Whirlwind type ability around him. But that's pretty much the two abilities, right? He throws some sharks, charges to them. He charges to the shark that's been out the longest, I guess you could say. Um, so that's the one thing. And the other thing is he does the kind of Sharknado. Um, you'll see here, I think at one point I try, like our tank, I don't know what they were trying to do here, but I guess the tank was trying to tank the shark as it jumped around, but I mean, honestly, just avoid it. It's super easy to avoid. They're not very quick. Um, there's not a ton of damage going out. Yeah, I see this demon hunter almost dies here. So does our tank. I'll see him. So it's kind of this boss. Unfortunately, the warlock died, so this is going to take a little bit longer. So I kind of just jump around. I think at one point coming up here, I do try to see if it's aggro based or not. I believe, or sorry, proximity based or not. If you can get the shark to actually follow you. You see, because it jumped towards me there, and then I moved away to jump back into melee. So I tried to see. Yeah, see it. I'm pretty sure it is like proximity based. So you can kind of pull the sharks to you, which is might be useful as you get into higher difficulties, and there's additional mechanics or additional things you need to worry about. Um, so yeah, so this is kind of this boss rush boss. He'll be done in a couple seconds. So yeah, so like I was saying before we kind of started getting in here, try and do is one of these videos or a couple of these videos every week, as long as there's new content out. Right now there's not a ton. We are still in alpha, but as the beta gets closer and the updates actually are interesting for monks or mistweavers specifically, try and kind of highlight some of those changes and what you can see. So the funny thing is, on this build we actually don't have, other than and have our defensive like fortifying brew, which I think is pretty funny. So that boss is down, and we're kind of running to the next area, the final area. And this is kind of another one of those bridge scenes. It actually does look kind of cool. I would recommend, not recommend, but it does look pretty interesting. This trash here, again, isn't very difficult, nothing too exciting to mention. So we'll clear through this stuff pretty quickly. I will say the trash in here isn't as bad as it seems. It's actually kind of interesting, the different packs. You can kind of pull a bunch of stuff all at once, which makes it a little bit more manageable, a little bit more fun. See how big those packs can get. So, um, but yeah, clearing this guy. There is some bugs where you kind of have to clear all this trash. You can skip one of these packs before to the boss, but you kind of want to end up clearing it just to make sure you don't bug out the boss, at least on this point. So, and now that we've gotten all this trash down, we're about to kind of jump into the final I guess encounter here. So the final encounter has a couple of different, I guess, pieces to it, and it's not exactly difficult, but there are some like unavoidable stuff. So these gray or white and gray things kind of shoot out of him. I kind of stood in it there, so you can kind of just be aware and move out of the way. But and then the second thing is he throws these like red. He targets one player. Well, at least initially targets one player and bombards them, and then they leave like little red fire circles on the ground. When you get him to 50%, he like I think this is where it comes up here. He like drinks or casts some spell or does something, and essentially like empowers those two abilities we just saw, the little spiral spikies and then the red things. And as you can see, the spikes now do a 360 around him. I don't know of an easy way to dodge them. There's got to be one, but I didn't really see it. And then he also targets everybody but a tank. So I think he targets four people. Everyone with the tank gets targeted with the red stuff. You just got to move away from it. That's basically the fight, kind of back and forth. There are some ads that jump in here. They target a specific player and then blow up when they get there. So you saw like one of those real briefly on our hunter. But ultimately, like it's a pretty simple fight. That was it. And demon hunters right now are these two demon hunters. This is the quickest I ever did this. So demon hunters are doing a ton of damage. But that is the instance. So thank you very much, guys, for watching.